The Great Pyramid is a riddle that has never been fully solved. What if its perfection is not an isolated wonder, but one line in a global conversation written in stone? We are going to uncover the ancient builders of balance, a network of architects separated by oceans and centuries who shared a single, profound goal. They sought to weave their structures into a living harmony between the earth, the sky, and the human spirit. By the end of this journey, you will see the ancient world through a completely new, interconnected lens, revealing a hidden language that shaped everything from Mayan temples to Roman domes. How did cultures with no known contact arrive at the same sacred mathematical codes? What forgotten principles of balance are still etched into the world's oldest monuments? Do you think our modern world has lost this ancient sense of harmony with the cosmos? That goal was not just about creating beautiful or sturdy buildings. For these ancient masters, architecture served a far higher purpose, acting as a kind of sacred instrument. They designed structures to resonate with the world around them, to literally tune their creations to the frequencies of the earth and the heavens. This is the core of architectural harmony, a philosophy where a temple, a tomb, or a city was never an isolated object. It was a conscious bridge. It connected three fundamental realms into a single, balanced chord. The first note in this chord was the physical earth, the actual site chosen with immense care. The second was the cosmic sky, the predictable dance of the sun, moon, and stars. And the third was the human spirit, the community's deepest beliefs about their place in the grand scheme of things. A truly harmonious building would sing with all three notes at once. So how did they achieve this? They used a shared toolkit of invisible principles. Sacred mathematical ratios, like the golden section, gave structures a proportion that felt inherently right and balanced to the human eye, a visual echo of patterns found throughout nature. They oriented doorways, corridors, and entire complexes with pinpoint accuracy to capture the sunrise on a solstice or frame a specific star, literally bringing the cosmos down to earth. And they infused every dimension, every shape, with symbolic numbers and geometry that held deep spiritual meaning. This was architecture as a living ritual. The building itself was an active participant in maintaining cosmic order, a mediator between humanity and the divine. It stood in stark contrast to how we often build today, where we frequently reshape a landscape to fit our plans. The ancient builders asked a different question. They asked how their plans could honor and complete the landscape that was already there. This respectful dialogue between human intention and the natural world is the first key to understanding everything they built. The sky was not just a spectacle to be admired, it was an architectural blueprint. For the ancient builders of balance, the first and most profound principle was alignment with the cosmos. They looked up and saw a perfect, predictable order, a celestial clockwork of stars and planets that governed seasons, tides, and time itself. Their greatest ambition was to bring that divine order down to earth, to anchor it in stone, and to make their sacred spaces active participants in the universe's grand rhythm. This was not mere decoration, it was a form of high-stakes engineering for the soul. A building aligned with the heavens became a conduit, a place where the boundary between the human and the divine grew thin. Consider the sheer ambition of the Great Pyramid at Giza. Its four sides are aligned to the four cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, with an accuracy that still baffles engineers. The error is less than a fraction of a single degree. Achieving this over 4,500 years ago without modern tools was a staggering feat of observation and will. But the question is, why go to such incredible lengths? This precision served no practical purpose for the living. It was not for city planning or navigation. The alignment was a spiritual anchor. Scholars believe the pyramid's descending and ascending passageways were meticulously angled to point toward specific, unchanging stars in the northern sky, stars the Egyptians called the imperishable ones. In their cosmology, these were the eternal resting places of the gods. By aligning the pharaoh's tomb with these fixed stars, the builders were creating a celestial ladder, a direct pathway for the king's spirit to ascend and join the eternal, unchanging realm above. The pyramid was not just a tomb, it was a launchpad for the afterlife, its very geometry forged in conversation with the night sky. This cosmic conversation echoes across the world in the misty fields of Salisbury Plain. Stonehenge, that mysterious ring of towering stones, is a masterclass in earthly celestial alignment. Its central axis is carefully oriented to frame the sunrise on the summer solstice, the longest day of the year. When that first sliver of sun breaks the horizon, it shines directly through the heart of the monument, illuminating the altar stone. This was no accident. It was a deliberate, breathtaking piece of cosmic theater. For the Neolithic people who built it, the solstice sunrise was a moment of supreme power, a turning point where the sun, the source of all life, reached its peak strength before beginning its gradual retreat. By capturing this moment in architecture, they were literally building a timepiece and a temple in one. The stones served as permanent witnesses to a cyclical promise of death and rebirth, of light conquering darkness. It transformed a static circle of rock into a dynamic instrument, one that measured not just days, but the very pulse of the cosmos. From the deserts of Egypt to the plains of England, the pattern is unmistakable. These builders saw their world as incomplete without a direct link to the heavens. Aligning a doorway to the solstice sun or a corridor to a pole star was an act of profound integration. It declared that human life and even death was part of a larger, orderly system. The architecture became a mediator, a stable point where the chaotic human world could touch the perfect, predictable motion of the universe. This hunger to mirror celestial order on earth reveals a foundational belief of the ancient mind, that true harmony and balance could only be achieved by first looking up. But once that vertical connection to the cosmos was secured, the builders faced another, equally vital challenge. How do you then harmonize your monumental creation with the living, breathing landscape that cradles it? This pursuit of celestial harmony led to a second, equally profound language, the silent mathematics of sacred geometry. If the cosmos provided the celestial blueprint, then sacred geometry was the master builder's ruler and compass. This is not geometry as we learn it in school, a dry subject of angles and proofs. This was a spiritual science, a belief that certain shapes and mathematical proportions were the fundamental building blocks of the universe itself, the very fingerprints of a divine creator. The circle representing the heavens and eternity, the square symbolizing the solid, stable earth, the triangle, a shape of ascension and strength, and the spiral, the pattern of growth and cosmic energy seen in whirlpools and distant galaxies. By weaving these forms into their architecture, ancient builders were doing more than constructing walls. They were replicating the underlying order of creation. They were making the invisible visible. Nowhere is this more elegantly demonstrated than in the serene ruins of the Parthenon, crowning the Acropolis in Athens. At first glance, you see a temple of majestic columns and sculpted marble, but look closer with the eye of a mathematician, and a deeper perfection emerges. The entire facade is a meticulously calculated symphony based on the golden ratio, a proportion often represented by the Greek letter phi, approximately 1 to 1.618. This ratio appears throughout the natural world, in the elegant spiral of a nautilus shell, the arrangement of seeds in a sunflower, even in the proportions of our own bodies. It is a pattern that the human eye and psyche instinctively find beautiful and balanced. The builders of the Parthenon did not stumble upon this harmony by chance. They engineered it with intentional precision. The relationship between the temple's height and its width, the spacing of its columns, even the dimensions of individual architectural elements, all resonate with this divine proportion. Why go to such extraordinary lengths? For the ancient Greeks, beauty was not merely decorative, it was a moral and cosmic necessity. A building crafted with the golden ratio was not just aesthetically pleasing, it was an embodiment of cosmos, a word meaning both order and ornament. It was a physical manifestation of the same mathematical laws that governed the movement of planets and the growth of living things. This mathematical piety transformed their architecture. A temple became more than a house for a god. It became an expression of the god's own rational, harmonious nature. Every column, every pediment sang in geometric harmony, creating a space that was meant to elevate the human spirit simply by being within it. The structure itself was a silent teacher, instructing all who entered about the beautiful, logical order of the universe. This quest for proportional perfection reveals a stunning ambition shared by builders across the ancient world. They believed that by encoding these universal forms into stone, they could create a microcosm, a small, perfect world that mirrored the grandeur and balance of the macrocosm. The building became a bridge not only between earth and sky, but between the human mind and the mind of the cosmos. Yet, this profound dialogue with mathematics and the heavens would mean very little if the structure itself could not stand the test of time. The most spiritually perfect design is useless if it collapses under its own weight. So how did these ancient architects solve the purely physical puzzle of support, of making immense stone structures not just symbolically eternal, but literally permanent? But the silent mathematics of sacred geometry could only achieve its purpose if the structure it defined was physically anchored to the world. The third principle brings our gaze down from the celestial blueprint and the master builder's compass to the very ground beneath the builder's feet. This is the practice of geomancy, the art of achieving harmony not by looking up, but by listening deeply to the earth itself. For these ancient architects, a site was never just a blank canvas. It was a living entity pulsing with its own energies, shaped by water, wind, and stone. True architectural balance meant entering into a respectful dialogue with these terrestrial forces, integrating a human creation so seamlessly into the landscape that it appeared to have grown there. The goal was not to conquer nature, but to collaborate with it, to build in a way that honored and even amplified the site's inherent spirit. To witness this principle in its most sublime form, we must journey to the clouds of the Andes, to the lost city of Machu Picchu. Perched on a narrow ridge between two soaring peaks, it is a masterpiece of geomancy. The initial assumption might be that such a remote, dizzying location was chosen purely for defense, and that was certainly a benefit. But the Incan builders were guided by a far deeper philosophy. They saw the mountain not as an obstacle, but as a sacred partner. Instead of leveling the ridge to create flat building plots, they performed a kind of architectural acupuncture. They meticulously carved their temples, palaces, and homes directly from the living granite of the mountain. Enormous stones were shaped to fit perfectly against the natural bedrock, their foundations merging with the earth in an unbreakable embrace. Look at the Temple of the Sun, its curved wall elegantly crafted to hug a sacred rock outcrop that the Incas venerated. The line between what was built by human hands and what was born of the mountain is utterly blurred. This was intentional reverence. By incorporating these powerful natural features into their most sacred structures, the Incas were acknowledging the divine presence already resident in the place. Their architecture became an extension of the mountain's own authority. Furthermore, the famous agricultural terraces that cascade down the steep slopes are not just feats of engineering, they are acts of profound balance. They follow the precise contours of the land, creating a system that prevents catastrophic erosion, captures precious water, and creates microclimates for growing crops. Each terrace is a stone hymn to sustainability, a way of drawing sustenance from the mountain without wounding it. At Machu Picchu, every wall, every stairway, every plaza is in conversation with the earth. The city does not sit upon the mountain, it is woven into its very fabric. This deep integration achieved a spiritual and practical stability that has allowed it to endure for centuries in one of the most geologically active regions on the planet. The builders understood that to achieve lasting harmony, their structures had to become part of the landscape's own story. This principle of geomancy reveals a humility often missing from our modern world. It asks us to see a building site not as a resource to be exploited, but as a living system to be understood and respected. The ancient builders sought a sacred reciprocity, giving back to the land through careful stewardship even as they received its support. They built with the grain of the earth, not against it. This profound connection between structure and site completes the triad of balance, tying the celestial aspirations and sacred mathematics firmly to the physical world. Yet, with these three powerful principles in hand, alignment with the cosmos, the mathematics of sacred geometry, and the earthly wisdom of geomancy, a final, haunting question emerges. How is it possible that builders separated by vast oceans and thousands of years with no known contact all arrived at this same, sophisticated architectural philosophy? The stones themselves began to speak a language of myth, beyond the silent mathematics of geometry and the precise angles of celestial alignment. The ancient builders of balance employed a fourth, deeply human principle. They infused their structures with potent symbolism and narrative, transforming cold stone into a living library of cultural memory and cosmic story. A building was not merely a shelter or a monument. It was a three-dimensional scripture designed to be read, walked through, and experienced. Its purpose was to make the intangible truths of faith and philosophy tangible, to harmonize the physical journey of the body with the spiritual journey of the soul. To understand this, we must walk through the towering gateways of Angkor Wat. From above, this Cambodian masterpiece reveals its secret. The entire complex is a staggering architectural model of the Hindu universe. The iconic cluster of 5 central towers does not simply reach for the sky. They represent the 5 peaks of Mount Meru, the sacred mountain considered the axis of all creation, the home of the gods. The vast rectangular moat that encircles the temple is not just for defense or water management. It is the cosmic ocean, the primordial waters from which the world emerged. This design transforms every visitor into a cosmographer. A pilgrim approaching the temple crosses the moat, symbolically traversing the cosmic ocean. They then journey through a series of concentric galleries and ascending courtyards, each level representing a higher plane of existence. The climb itself is a spiritual ascent, a moving meditation that reenacts the soul's journey from the worldly periphery toward the divine center, the summit of Mount Meru at the heart of the complex. But the instruction does not stop with the grand layout. Every surface teaches. Miles of intricate bas-reliefs depict epic myths, celestial dancers, and historical processions. Walking these galleries is like turning the pages of a sacred text carved in sandstone. The architecture ensures you cannot separate the story from the space. Your physical movement through the corridors and up the steps reinforces the narrative of spiritual progress. Harmony here is achieved when belief and environment become one seamless experience. The temple does not just house rituals, it is the ritual. It educates, inspires, and elevates simply through its embodied symbolism. This principle of narrative architecture was a global phenomenon. A Gothic cathedral, with its soaring vaults pointing heavenward and its stained glass windows illuminating biblical stories, served the same purpose for medieval Christians. The building itself was a sermon in stone and light, guiding the faithful toward transcendence. By encoding their deepest stories into the very fabric of their buildings, these cultures created a perpetual resonance. The structure became a teacher for generations, a permanent anchor for identity and belief in a changing world. It forged an unbreakable harmony between the community's inner life and its outer physical home. Yet, with these four powerful principles now in view, a pattern of startling similarity emerges across continents. How could builders working in isolation have possibly converged on such a coherent and sophisticated architectural philosophy? The answer may lie not in shared blueprints, but in a shared human response to the fundamental nature of reality itself. The quest for harmony extended far beyond what the eye could see. For the ancient builders, true balance was a full sensory experience, engaging not just sight but sound, atmosphere, and even the feeling of the space itself. This is the fifth principle, a masterful form of acoustic and sensory engineering, where architecture was designed to shape the very air within it, creating an immersive world that could alter perception and deepen spiritual connection. They understood that to fully harmonize the human spirit with the divine, you had to design for the ears and the body as much as for the eyes. Recent research is uncovering just how intentional these effects were. Walk into the hypostyle hall of Egypt's Karnak temple, a forest of 134 colossal columns. In such a vast, crowded space, you would expect a chaotic cacophony of echoes. Yet the design creates a stunning acoustic anomaly. The dense arrangement of columns acts as a perfect sound dampener, absorbing noise from every direction except one. Along the central axis, the main processional path, sound behaves completely differently. A chant or a spoken word from a priest standing on that central line would not dissipate. Instead, it would travel with surprising clarity and resonance, its voice seemingly amplified by the very stones. To a worshipper, this would have felt like a miracle. The priest's words channeled along that sacred path were not merely heard, they were endowed with power, as if the temple itself and the gods within it were giving the sound their blessing. This was not an accident of construction, it was acoustic architecture with a divine purpose, making the invisible presence of the sacred tangibly audible. This sophisticated manipulation of sound appears across the ancient world, adapted to local belief and ritual. In the great ball courts of the Maya, where a ritual game held profound cosmic significance, the architecture served as a massive sound instrument. The parallel sloping walls of the court were precisely angled to create a unique echo effect. During ceremonies, the impact of the heavy rubber ball or the shouts of the players would produce a distinct percussive reverberation. Researchers have noted that this sound strikingly mimics the call of the Quetzal bird, a creature deeply sacred to the Maya, associated with the gods and the celestial realm. In the midst of a game that symbolically reenacted the struggle between light and darkness or life and death, that echoing call from the walls would have been chilling. It transformed the court from a simple sporting arena into a resonant chamber where the spirit world audibly participated in the human drama. The very air seemed to speak with a divine voice, blurring the line between the physical contest and the mythological story it represented. These acoustic designs reveal a layer of intention we are only beginning to fully appreciate. The ancient builders were crafting atmosphere. They used stone and space to choreograph an experience where the awe one felt was not just a reaction to grandeur, but a carefully engineered response. The goal was total immersion, to balance the audible with the spiritual, to make participants not just observers, but active elements within a living, breathing ritual. In these spaces, harmony was something you heard in the resonant silence after a chant, and felt in the cool, charged air of a sacred chamber. It was a full-body philosophy, where architecture became an instrument for transcending the ordinary. Yet this profound sensory harmony would have been impossible without a deep, practical wisdom. The sixth principle brings us to the very substance of the ancient world, the stone, the clay, and the mortar. True architectural balance demanded more than spiritual alignment. It required a profound respect for the earth's gifts. The the builders of balance were, in many ways, the world's first sustainable architects. Their genius lay not in conquering materials, but in listening to them, understanding their inherent strengths and limitations, and using them in ways that worked in concert with the local climate and geology. Harmony was not just a lofty ideal, it was a practical necessity for survival and legacy. They built to endure for centuries, not by extracting and exploiting, but by collaborating intelligently with the resources at hand. Consider the revolutionary innovation of Roman concrete. While the Greeks built with magnificent cut stone, the Romans looked at the volcanic ash of the Italian peninsula and saw a different kind of potential. They perfected a formula mixing this ash, known as pozzolana, with lime and rubble to create a material that was not only incredibly strong, but could be poured into vast, complex shapes. This mastery is embodied in the Pantheon in Rome. Its dome, still the world's largest unreinforced concrete dome nearly 2,000 years later, is a testament to this material harmony. The Romans did not just build a dome, they engineered its very substance. They used progressively lighter aggregates in the concrete mix as the dome rose, reducing weight and stress at the top. The oculus, the great open eye at the center, eliminates the need for a heavy keystone and floods the interior with a moving column of light. The Pantheon stands because its builders understood their material so completely that they could make it sing, creating a space of both immense physical stability and breathtaking spiritual atmosphere. It is a harmony of chemistry, physics, and vision. On another continent, in the arid canyons of the American Southwest, the ancestral Puebloans practiced a different kind of material wisdom. Faced with scorching days and freezing nights, they sought harmony through integration, not innovation. Their breathtaking cliff dwellings, like those at Mesa Verde, were built directly into the sheltered alcoves of canyon walls. They used the most local of materials, sandstone blocks shaped by hand and bonded with a mortar made from mud, water, and ash. This was not a primitive method, it was an adaptive masterpiece. The thick sandstone walls and the natural rock overhang provided superb thermal mass, absorbing heat during the day and slowly releasing it through the cool night, while also protecting from snow and rain. The structures became extensions of the cliff itself, maintaining a stable, livable environment in a land of harsh extremes. They built with what the canyon offered, and in doing so, created homes that were perfectly tuned to their world. This philosophy of climatic intelligence echoes across the globe in the ancient skyscrapers of Shibam in Yemen. Rising from the desert like a Manhattan of mud, these tower houses, some over 100 feet tall and 500 years old, are monuments to earthen architecture. Built from sun-dried mud bricks, their design is a direct response to the environment. The thick walls provide crucial insulation against the heat, while the small, recessed windows minimize the sun's glare and help capture cooling breezes. The very material, mud, is endlessly renewable and provides excellent natural humidity regulation. The people of Shibam did not fight their desert climate. They learned its logic and built a city that embodied it. Each of these examples reveals a shared, pragmatic layer of the ancient harmony philosophy. It was about creating a lasting dialogue between human need and environmental reality. To build with balance meant to source locally, to understand a material soul, and to design in a way that left the land not plundered but respected. The structure's endurance was proof of this successful partnership. It asks us a poignant question for our own time. In an age of global supply chains and energy-intensive materials, have we forgotten how to listen to the specific song of a place, to build from it and for it? This deep, practical harmony in stone and clay ultimately served a grander purpose, to create spaces that would anchor a community's identity for generations. But this leads us to a final, unifying mystery. With all these 6 principles now revealed, from cosmic alignment to material wisdom, a startling pattern is complete. We see the same intellectual fingerprints on monuments from the deserts of Egypt to the jungles of Cambodia. The unavoidable question grows louder. Was this a coincidence, a case of different minds independently solving the same problem? Or does it point to something far more profound, a shared layer of human consciousness responding to a fundamental truth about our universe? The true masterpiece was not just the stone, but the society that raised it. This brings us to the seventh and perhaps most human principle of all, the profound role of social cohesion and communal purpose. The grandest architectural harmonies were never the work of a single genius. They were symphonies of human effort, composed over decades by thousands of hands and hearts. The very process of construction became a powerful engine for social harmony, transforming a collection of individuals into a unified community with a shared destiny. To build for the cosmos, they first had to build together. Nowhere does this principle shine more clearly than in the soaring Gothic cathedrals of medieval Europe. These stone prayers reaching for heaven were not commissioned by distant kings and built by anonymous slaves. They were projects of the people for the people. A cathedral's construction involved the entire ecosystem of a town or city. Master masons designed the delicate tracery of stone, but they relied on the quarrymen who understood the grain of the rock, the carpenters who built the intricate wooden scaffolding and molds, the blacksmiths who forged the tools, the glassmakers who transformed sand and minerals into radiant windows of holy light. Even ordinary citizens contributed, hauling materials, providing food, or donating funds, often through guilds dedicated to specific aspects of the work. This was a devotional project that could span multiple human lifetimes, with a father laying foundations his grandson would never see completed. What did this immense, generational endeavor create beyond the building itself? It forged a powerful shared identity. The cathedral became ours, a collective achievement that every level of society had a hand in. It stimulated incredible technical innovation, as masons solved complex problems of weight distribution and light, pushing the boundaries of engineering in a sacred context. And it fueled a vibrant local economy, circulating wealth and skill throughout the community for generations. The act of building was a ritual in itself, a continuous practice of faith and cooperation. Then, once completed, the structure stood as the permanent symbol of that achievement. Its very presence in the town square was a daily reminder of what was possible when a community united behind a purpose greater than any individual. The cathedral balanced the spiritual and the social, literally setting a vision of a harmonious society in stone and stained glass. It visually articulated a place for everyone, from the humble parishioner in the nave to the bishop at the altar, all under the same vaulted heaven. This model of communal creation was a global phenomenon. While the pharaohs of Egypt commanded vast labor forces, even those projects provided a sense of shared national identity and divine favor that bound the kingdom together. The communal kivas of the ancestral pueblones were built by and for the entire village, serving as both spiritual centers and spaces for social decision-making, reinforcing the bonds that allowed them to thrive in a challenging environment. In each case, the architecture did more than house a community. It actively built and defined it. The process turned abstract beliefs into collective action, and the final product became a tangible anchor for that collective memory. This reveals the ultimate goal of the builders of balance. They sought harmony not only between earth and sky, but within human society itself. The monument was the proof that such harmony was possible, a lesson in stone that taught every generation the power of unity, purpose, and shared aspiration. It makes you wonder, in our modern world of specialized tasks and fleeting projects, what grand, unifying purpose could we collectively build toward that would leave a legacy of harmony for centuries to come? The principles of harmony find their perfect expression in the silent stone of Teotihuacan. This immense city, whose original name we may never know, rises from the Valley of Mexico not as a haphazard collection of buildings, but as a deliberate, breathtaking model of the cosmos itself. Its builders orchestrated every element, from the grandest pyramid to the smallest apartment, into a unified vision of balance. Walking its central artery, the Avenue of the Dead, you are not simply moving through an ancient street, you are tracing a line written in the stars. The avenue's precise alignment, 15.5 degrees east of true north, was no surveying error. Researchers believe it was carefully set to point toward the setting point of the Pleiades star cluster on the horizon. In Mesoamerican belief, this star cluster was deeply sacred, associated with renewal, agriculture, and the cyclical nature of time. By anchoring their city's main axis to this celestial event, the people of Teotihuacan were literally building their world in rhythm with the heavens. The city itself became a terrestrial counterpart to the cosmic order, its longest street a permanent echo of a starry path. This celestial alignment is mirrored by an equally profound terrestrial harmony. Look at the relationship between the pyramids of the sun and moon and the natural landscape. The massive pyramid of the sun does not stand alone. It is deliberately positioned to create a visual dialogue with the distant Cerro Gordo mountain. The smaller yet perfectly proportioned pyramid of the moon sits at the northern end of the Avenue of the Dead, framing the mountain's silhouette as a dramatic backdrop. The architects were not competing with the natural world, they were incorporating it as a sacred feature of their design. The mountain and the pyramids become partners in a single composition, a balance of human-made geometry and divine geology. This is geomancy on an urban scale, where the entire city plan respectfully acknowledges and integrates the powerful spirit of the place. But the harmony of Teotihuacan extended far beyond grand axes and pyramids. It permeated the very fabric of daily life. The city was laid out on a strict grid pattern, a rarity in the ancient world, signaling a society obsessed with order. More remarkably, the majority of its inhabitants did not live in slums or hovels, but in well-planned, standardized apartment compounds. These were multi-family homes built around central courtyards, decorated with vibrant murals depicting gods, rituals, and scenes from a shared mythology. This suggests a startling degree of social planning, perhaps even a form of equity, where a concern for cosmic balance was reflected in a stable and organized community life. The murals inside every home served as constant reminders of the spiritual principles that governed the city outside. Teotihuacan, then, stands as a monumental case study. It was not merely a city where people lived, it was a three-dimensional universe where they could experience harmony. Every sunrise along the calibrated avenue, every view that linked pyramid to mountain, every mural in a shared courtyard, reinforced a single, powerful idea. That human society, the Earth, and the cosmos were interconnected parts of a single, balanced system. To live in Teotihuacan was to walk within that living system every single day. Yet, this magnificent American example of planned perfection was not alone. Across the Atlantic, in the heart of another great empire, architects were solving the same puzzle of balance, but with a radically different set of materials and a wholly distinct spiritual vision. Their answer would not reach for the open sky, but would instead create harmony by mastering the space within. While Teotihuacan organized an entire city under the open sky, Roman architects pursued harmony by mastering the world within four walls. Their masterpiece is the Pantheon, a building that has survived empires and still feels startlingly modern. Its genius lies not in external alignment, but in the creation of a sublime, perfectly balanced interior universe. Step inside and you leave the noisy Roman streets behind, entering a realm of breathtaking geometric certainty. The space is a cylinder crowned by a soaring dome, but the proportions hold a secret. The dome's diameter is exactly equal to the interior height from the floor to the oculus. This means you could fit a perfect sphere inside the building, with the floor as its base and the curve of the dome as its top. This is no aesthetic accident. It is a profound statement in stone, a declaration that the most harmonious human space mirrors the most perfect shape in nature, the sphere, a symbol of the cosmos and divine unity. You are standing inside a model of the world. The true magic, however, is dynamic. At the very apex of that vast dome is the oculus, a 27-foot wide open eye to the sky. This is the Pantheon soul. It is not merely a window or a light source. It is a living, breathing cosmic instrument. Throughout the day, a brilliant beam of sunlight pours through this opening, painting a luminous disk that travels slowly across the interior. It marches across the coffered ceiling, down the majestic columns, and over the patterned marble floor. This moving light performs a silent, celestial clock. It marks the hours with solar precision, and its changing path across the year signals the shifting seasons. On the spring equinox, for example, the noon sun strikes a specific point above the doorway, a built-in solar calendar. Rain occasionally falls through the oculus as well, collecting in a subtle drainage system in the floor, a reminder that this temple welcomes all aspects of the heavens. The Pantheon does not just represent the harmony between earth and sky, it actively stages it every single day. The solid, enduring might of Roman concrete engineering holds space for the ethereal, ever-changing drama of light and sky. Geometry, material, and celestial motion fuse into a single, immersive experience. The building invites quiet contemplation, asking you to feel your place within that perfect sphere under that moving eye of light. It is architecture as a performed ritual where the visitor becomes a witness to balance in motion. This Roman vision of interior cosmic harmony stands in fascinating contrast to another ancient tradition, one that sought balance not by enclosing the heavens, but by dissolving the walls entirely, creating structures that were more journey than destination. The Pantheon's perfect sphere of stone held the cosmos within its walls, but halfway across the world, another civilization built a cosmos you were meant to walk. On the island of Java, the Buddhist monument of Borobudur does not enclose space, it choreographs a journey. Rising from a lush volcanic plain, it is a mountain of harmony carved by human hands, a massive three-dimensional mandala designed not for congregation, but for solitary, transformative ascent. Its form is its function, a physical map of the Buddhist path to enlightenment, where every step upward is a step inward. The pilgrim begins at the wide, square base, a realm symbolizing the world of desire, where we are bound by our attachments and senses. From there, the path begins a clockwise spiral, a deliberate, meditative pacing. You ascend through 5 concentric square terraces, walls adorned with over 2,600 exquisitely carved relief panels. These are not mere decorations, they are a stone scripture depicting the life of the Buddha, tales of his past lives, and scenes illustrating the laws of karma. To walk these galleries is to read a spiritual epic with your feet, the narrative unfolding step by step, preparing the mind for what lies ahead. This middle section represents the world of forms, where one learns to perceive the universe through wisdom and compassion, moving beyond crude desire. Then, the architecture itself undergoes a profound transformation. The rigid, angular square terraces give way to 3 circular platforms. The straight lines dissolve into curves, the enclosed walls vanish, opening to vast sky and sweeping views of the surrounding mountains. Here, seated in silent rows, are 72 perforated stupas, each housing a serene statue of the Buddha. The world of formlessness has been reached, a realm beyond shape and name. Finally, at the very summit, a great central stupa stands empty. It represents nirvana, ultimate enlightenment, a state so profound it cannot be depicted or contained. The entire monumental climb, from the earthly desires of the base to the empty summit, is a masterclass in architectural psychology. The builders used the very substance of the monument, its changing geometry from square to circle, from narrative walls to open sky, to mirror the pilgrim's inner progress from confusion to clarity, from attachment to release. The harmony of Borobudur is not something you observe, it is something you perform. Your physical exertion becomes part of the prayer, the act of circling and ascending a ritual in motion. This participatory design reveals a stunning ambition. The builders sought to create an instrument for enlightenment itself, a staircase of stone where the architecture guides the individual toward inner balance and through that into unity with the cosmic order. It asks a silent question of every visitor: can a path of stone walked with intention truly change the soul? The silent language of harmony was written in numbers. Beyond the grand alignments and symbolic forms, the builders of balance appear to have shared a hidden mathematical code, a set of numerical constants so fundamental they seem woven into the fabric of reality itself. These are not the complex equations of modern physics, but elegant, recurring ratios that the ancient world encoded into stone with a consistency that defies simple coincidence. It suggests they were not just artists or engineers, but philosophers of a numerical universe, seeking to echo its deepest patterns in their work. One of the most famous of these patterns is pi, the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter, approximately 3.1416. The Great Pyramid of Giza holds a stunning secret related to this constant. If you take the pyramid's original perimeter and divide it by twice its original height, the result is a figure extraordinarily close to pi. The precision of this relationship, whether intentional or a breathtaking byproduct of other design choices, implies a sophisticated understanding of circular geometry within a square-based structure. It is as if the pyramid's very dimensions whisper a mathematical truth about the relationship between linear and circular measure, between the earth and the sky. Alongside pi, another constant emerges with even greater artistic and spiritual weight, the golden ratio known as phi. This proportion, roughly 1 to 1.618, is celebrated for its aesthetic perfection, appearing in the spiral of a galaxy, the arrangement of a pine cone, and indeed, the proportions of a well-balanced human face. The ancient Greeks did not just admire this ratio in nature, they worshipped it in stone. The Parthenon's facade is a textbook study in phi, with the width to height of its front elevation, the spacing of its columns, and the layout of its inner chambers all reflecting this divine proportion. But the application went beyond architecture. Classical sculptors, in their quest to depict ideal human beauty, deliberately crafted their statues, like the famed Dorophoros, with body segments whose lengths relate to one another by the golden ratio. For them, mathematical harmony was the very source of physical beauty and, by extension, moral and cosmic virtue. To build or sculpt with phi was to participate in the universal order. Perhaps the most mysterious thread in this numerical tapestry is the proposed megalithic yard. This is not a universal constant like pi, but a standardized unit of measure, approximately 2.72 feet. The intriguing theory, proposed by researcher Alexander Thom after surveying hundreds of Neolithic sites, is that this precise unit was used to lay out stone circles across Britain and Brittany, from Stonehenge to Callanish. The diameters and circumferences of these rings often appear to be whole multiples of this megalithic yard. If correct, this points to something astonishing, a shared system of measurement and advanced surveying knowledge disseminated across a vast region and sustained over millennia. It implies a community of builders who not only shared a spiritual vision, but a common technical language for bringing that vision to earth. So what are we to make of this scattered yet coherent evidence, these echoes of pi in the desert, phi in the temple, and a standard yard in the moor? The most compelling interpretation is not that a single master teacher traveled the globe with a blueprint, but that these diverse cultures, through deep observation and contemplation, independently tapped into the same fundamental truths. They looked at the human body, the growth patterns of plants, and the cycles of the heavens, and perceived a recurring, beautiful mathematics underlying it all. Their architecture became an act of philosophical reflection, an attempt to build local, earthly expressions of these universal principles. In doing so, they were speaking a common language, the numerical language of the universe itself. Their silent stones ask us whether we, in our own age of calculation, have forgotten how to listen for the music within the math. The most profound harmonies were often those you could not see, but could hear in a gentle flow or feel in a cool, subterranean air. Water, the universal source of life, demanded its own sacred architecture. To achieve true balance, civilizations had to become master hydrologists, designing structures that did not just use water, but honored its journey, transforming practical necessity into an art form of spiritual and social unity. This was a dialogue with the liquid soul of the earth. The Roman aqueduct stands as one of history's most elegant solutions to this challenge. These were not mere channels, they were rivers of stone lifted into the sky, a breathtaking fusion of civil engineering and respect for natural law. The Romans understood a fundamental principle: water seeks its own level. Their genius lay in harnessing gravity itself as the sole engine for their water networks. With meticulous surveying, they plotted courses across dozens of miles, maintaining a precise, gentle downward slope from a mountain spring to the heart of a thirsty city. When the path met a valley, they did not divert the water. They built soaring arcades of arches to carry the channel straight across, maintaining that crucial, unbroken gradient. The Pont du Gard in southern France is a perfect testament to this. Its 3 tiers of arches are not just strong, they are beautiful in their proportion, a landmark that celebrates the water's journey as much as facilitates it. The aqueduct balanced urban need with the logic of the watershed. It was a gesture of harmony, bringing the purity of distant highlands into the bustling forum without force, only guided flow. It declared that a great city thrived not by conquering nature, but by understanding and cooperating with its simplest rules. Yet, on the Indian subcontinent, a completely different, and perhaps even more intimate, conversation with water was taking shape. Here, in the arid regions, architects performed a stunning inversion. Instead of reaching up to bring water across space, they carved down to meet it in time. The stepwells, like the awe-inspiring Chand Baori, are monuments of descent. Imagine a colossal geometric canyon carved into the earth, an inverted pyramid of over 3,500 precise steps descending nearly 100 feet down to a dark, cool pool of groundwater. This was not a hidden utilitarian hole. It was a breathtaking public space, a subterranean palace for water. The architecture is meticulously ordered, with staircases cascading down 3 sides in perfect symmetry, creating a mesmerizing visual rhythm that draws the eye down to the water's surface. But the stepwell was far more than a reservoir. It was a sanctuary. As you descended, the temperature dropped, offering a refuge from the blistering heat above. The walls were often adorned with exquisite carvings of deities and mythological scenes, and small temples and pavilions were built right into the sides of the well. Drawing water became a prolonged communal ritual. The long walk down and back up encouraged conversation and gathering. It was a social equalizer, a place where all came for the same vital resource, surrounded by art and cool silence. In the stepwell, the technical act of water management was inseparable from spiritual reflection and community bonding. The structure made the sacredness of water tangible, turning a daily chore into a devotional walk through a magnificent, engineered cavern. From the Roman aqueducts that marched across landscapes to the Indian stepwells that plunged into the earth, we see a shared philosophy. Water was not a commodity to be controlled, but a partner in a delicate dance. Harmony was achieved by designing structures that worked with water's nature, with gravity and the water table, and that elevated its collection into an act of cultural and spiritual significance. These water architects understood that to balance a society, you first had to balance its relationship with the source of all life. This deep, reverential partnership with natural forces hints at a wisdom that seems almost timeless, a thread connecting the ancient world to traditions that have survived into the modern age, living practices that still embody these ancient principles of balance. These principles of water and stone could not survive on parchment alone. The true libraries of harmony were not made of books but of people. In a world before widespread literacy, this profound architectural knowledge faced its greatest threat, the fragility of human memory. How did these complex systems of alignment, geometry, and material wisdom survive for centuries, even millennia? The answer lies not in secret texts, but in sacred speech and guarded fellowship. The principles were safeguarded by two powerful, intertwined institutions, the master builder guilds and the living tradition of oral narrative. These were the engines of transmission, turning abstract ideas into embodied practice, passed from one generation to the next in a continuous chain of experiential learning. In medieval Europe, this system took the form of the stonemasons' lodges. These were far more than labor unions. They were custodians of a sacred craft. Within the lodge, the secrets of sacred geometry, structural proportion, and complex vaulting were protected with the utmost seriousness. This knowledge was not written in manuals, but encoded in rituals, symbols, and hands-on instruction. A young apprentice would begin by performing simple tasks, absorbing the culture and ethics of the lodge. As he proved his dedication and skill, he would be gradually initiated into deeper mysteries, learning to use the compass and square not just as tools, but as philosophical guides to moral and cosmic order. The master mason taught by doing, by correcting, by telling stories of past projects and legendary builders. The lodge itself was a school, a social support system, and a spiritual brotherhood all in one. It ensured that the ability to raise a cathedral, that perfect balance of weight and light, was not a static set of instructions, but a living, breathing tradition, adapted to each new site and challenge. This model of guild-based knowledge kept the flame of architectural harmony burning through the rise and fall of kingdoms. Across the Sahara, in the cliffs of West Africa, another civilization perfected a different form of living library. The Dogon people of Mali have preserved, entirely through oral tradition, an astronomical knowledge system that has stunned modern researchers. For centuries, their spiritual leaders, the Hogon, have passed down detailed narratives about the star system Sirius, including the existence of its dense, invisible companion star, Sirius B, a fact only confirmed by Western telescopes in the 19th century. This is not merely trivia remembered, it is cosmology enacted. Their knowledge is directly reflected in the harmony of their built environment. The layout of a Dogon village is a microcosm of the universe. Granaries, homes, and men's meeting houses are arranged to mirror the celestial order they describe, with structures representing stars, the sun, and the moon. The design of their iconic granaries, with their symbolic masculine and feminine forms and precisely arranged storage bins, encodes their understanding of cosmic duality and social organization. Here, oral narrative and architectural practice are inseparable. The stories explain the world, and the built world physically embodies the stories, teaching each new generation through daily life. The knowledge stays alive because it is useful, sacred, and woven into the very fabric of existence. These systems, the European Guild and the African oral tradition, reveal the same brilliant solution to the problem of preserving harmony. They understood that profound knowledge is too vital to be entrusted to ink and paper alone, which can burn, rot, or be misunderstood. True understanding had to be performed. It had to be told in stories around a fire, demonstrated on a tracing floor, felt in the swing of a mallet, and seen in the alignment of a village to the stars. The master builder was not just a technician, but a storyteller and a priest. The apprentice was not just a student, but an heir to a lineage. This was how the sacred principles of balance survived the collapse of empires and the silence of the Dark Ages, carried in the minds and hands of those who knew that to build for eternity, you first had to teach for a lifetime. Yet the stone libraries and oral traditions faced a relentless adversary, time itself, and the unpredictable tides of human history. The story of architectural harmony is not one of uninterrupted perfection, but a chronicle of resilience against profound disruption. The very forces these builders sought to balance with, the earth and human ambition, could also rise up to challenge their creations. A single, violent tremor along a fault line could reduce a city of perfect proportion to rubble in moments, as some evidence suggests for the sophisticated Minoan civilization on Crete, whose vibrant, harmonious palaces were likely lost to a catastrophic earthquake and the waves that followed. Such natural cataclysms were a stark reminder that even the most attuned architecture existed within a powerful and sometimes volatile world. More often, however, the rupture came not from the ground, but from the clash of human visions. Conquest and colonization did not just replace rulers, they sought to overwrite cosmic order. When Spanish conquistadors arrived in the heart of the Aztec Empire, they saw the towering Templo Mayor not as a sacred axis mundi, but as a symbol of a faith they aimed to eradicate. Their strategy was both practical and profoundly symbolic. They dismantled the pyramid and used its very stones to construct the Metropolitan Cathedral directly on top of the sacred precinct. This was more than reuse of materials, it was a deliberate act of architectural superimposition. One vision of harmony, centered on Mesoamerican deities and celestial cycles, was physically buried and replaced by another, oriented toward the cross and the Christian heaven. The new cathedral's alignment and geometry spoke a different spiritual language, creating a jarring dissonance in the landscape that echoed the cultural rupture below. This pattern repeated across continents and eras. As religious paradigms shifted, so too did the architectural expressions of balance. A Gothic cathedral might be built over a pagan grove, a mosque might incorporate the columns of a Roman temple, each transition layering new harmonies over old, sometimes erasing, sometimes absorbing. Then came perhaps the most systemic challenge, the rise of the industrial worldview. With the Enlightenment and the machine age, a new set of priorities emerged: efficiency, standardization, and economic profit. The sacred geometry of the Parthenon or the celestial alignment of a temple were no longer primary guides. The governing principles became the grid of the surveyor, the logic of the production line, and the economics of the developer. Buildings were designed to maximize light, space, and rentable square footage, not to resonate with the solstice sun or embody the golden ratio. The very idea that a structure should mediate between the human spirit and the cosmos seemed to many a quaint relic. Iron, steel, and concrete allowed for new forms, but the driving philosophy often shifted from integration with nature to its subjugation. This historical arc of disruption forces a difficult but essential question. Is architectural harmony a fragile, ephemeral ideal, beautiful but inevitably swept away by disaster or progress? Or does the underlying philosophy possess a deeper resilience, a capacity to be reborn in new and unexpected forms, even in a world of skyscrapers and steel? The philosophy of balance found its purest expression not in resisting nature, but in learning its language. As our journey moves east, we encounter civilizations that refine this dialogue into a high art, creating systems of harmony that were both meticulously practical and profoundly spiritual. In China, this ancient wisdom crystallized into the practice of Feng Shui, literally meaning wind and water. This was not a superstition, but a sophisticated environmental science. Its core principle was the management of Kai, the vital life force that flows through all landscapes, buildings, and living beings. A Feng Shui master acted as a doctor for the land, diagnosing the health of this energy. He would analyze the shapes of surrounding hills called the dragon veins, the path of waterways, and the direction of prevailing winds. The goal was to position a home, a tomb, or an entire city to shelter beneficial Kai and gently disperse any stagnant or harmful energy. This created a living environment in sync with the Earth's own breath, promising health, prosperity, and peace to its inhabitants. The ultimate expression of this philosophy is the Forbidden City in Beijing. This vast imperial complex is a masterwork of cosmic and terrestrial alignment. Its entire layout is rigidly oriented on a north-south axis, aligning with the pole star, a symbol of celestial authority and permanence. But within this strict geometry, Feng Shui principles orchestrate every detail. A series of gates, courtyards, and bridges are positioned not just for procession, but to guide and accumulate auspicious Kai. The artificial Jinshan Hill just north of the palace was constructed as a protective barrier against harsh northern winds, believed to carry negative influences. The Golden Water River snakes through the complex in a carefully designed curve because Kai is thought to travel with water, and a meandering flow collects positive energy, while a straight, rapid channel would let it rush away. Every element, from the color of the roof tiles to the placement of guardian lion statues, was part of a grand, harmonious equation between human power and the invisible forces of the natural world. Across the sea in Japan, a different yet equally profound aesthetic of harmony emerged. Here, the concept is Wabi-Sabi, a worldview that finds profound beauty in imperfection, impermanence, and the humble honesty of natural materials. While Feng Shui seeks to optimize external energy, Wabi-Sabi cultivates an inner harmony by embracing the quiet, fleeting nature of existence. You can walk into a traditional tea house and feel this philosophy in the very grain of the wood. The structure is deliberately rustic and asymmetrical, with exposed timber beams that show their knots and irregularities not as flaws but as records of the tree's life. A wall might be made of clay mixed with straw, its surface uneven and textured, catching the light in soft, unpredictable ways. The roji, the garden path leading to the tea house, is made of irregular stepping stones, perhaps mossy and worn, forcing the guest to walk slowly and mindfully, leaving the haste of the outside world behind. This is harmony through acceptance, not control. It teaches that true balance comes from appreciating things as they are, in their natural state of growth and decay. This principle extends magnificently to temple garden design, like the famous moss garden of Seiho-ji in Kyoto. Here, the human hand is nearly invisible. Instead of imposing geometric order, the designers curated a landscape that feels utterly wild and serene. They positioned ancient trees, stones covered in velvety moss, and a still pond to create a series of living paintings that change with the season and the weather. The garden does not compete with the forest around it. It becomes an extension of it, a captured moment of natural perfection that is, by its very nature, always changing. The harmony is in the seamless blend, in the quiet conversation between the placed stone and the creeping moss, between the reflective pond and the sky it mirrors. In these Eastern traditions, we see the ancient quest for balance achieving a remarkable subtlety. It moves from the monumental alignment of pyramids to the intimate curve of a garden path, from the cosmic mathematics of the dome to the appreciation of a crack in a clay bowl. They remind us that harmony is not always about grand statements etched in stone, but can also be found in a mindful alignment with the quiet, enduring rhythms of the natural world. The serene perfection of these ancient structures casts a long, complex shadow. To stand before the Great Pyramid is to witness a triumph of human vision, but it is also to stand before a monument built by an army of laborers over decades. The sublime harmony achieved in stone often came at a profound human price, a tension woven into the very foundations of these wonders. the quest for cosmic balance was, without exception, an exercise of immense earthly power. Pharaohs, emperors, and high priests commanded the resources of entire kingdoms to make their divine aspirations permanent. The sheer scale of such projects required the mobilization of workforces numbering in the tens of thousands, from skilled artisans and engineers to vast numbers of manual laborers. While evidence from Giza suggests many workers were not slaves in the classical sense, but rather conscripted farmers working during the Nile's flood season, the line between paid labor and compelled service was thin. Their lives were dedicated to a vision they did not own, their sweat and toil absorbed into stones meant to glorify a single ruler's journey to the afterlife. The social harmony envisioned by the finished product was, in its creation, a picture of stark hierarchy and control. This pattern echoes through the ages. The magnificent Roman aqueducts and colosseums, symbols of civic order and engineering harmony, were frequently built by enslaved populations captured in Rome's endless wars. The beautiful symmetry of a colonial Spanish cathedral rising over a sacred Aztec site speaks not only of spiritual replacement but of physical subjugation, its stones literally quarried from a dismantled world. Even the communal cathedrals of medieval Europe, often cited as projects of town pride, relied on economic systems and social structures that entrenched deep class divisions. The master mason might have been a respected artist, but the quarryman and the carrier faced back-breaking, perilous work with little recognition. The glorious harmony of the final form could mask a reality of immense strain, injury, and lost years for those whose names history never recorded. This forces us to sit with a difficult and essential question. Can a structure be considered truly harmonious if its creation required widespread coercion or suffering? The architectural philosophy we have explored sought balance between earth, sky, and spirit. Yet if the human spirit involved was burdened by oppression, can that final balance ever be complete? It compels us to view these monuments with dual vision. We can and should marvel at the intellectual and artistic achievement, the breathtaking alignment with the cosmos, the genius of proportion and material. Simultaneously, we must acknowledge the complex, often painful, social machinery that turned vision into reality. The history of architecture is inextricably a history of power. Who had the authority to command such a project, whose worldview it was meant to celebrate, and who paid the physical cost? The quest for celestial order was always directed by earthly rulers seeking to legitimize their rule, unify their people, or secure their legacy among the stars. This shadow side does not erase the beauty of the achievement, but it deepens our understanding of it. It reminds us that harmony, as an ideal, has always been a contested and costly pursuit, a reminder that the stones themselves hold many stories, not all of them serene. This acknowledgement makes the surviving examples of a different kind of balance, those built through genuine communal consensus and respect, shine all the more brightly. The shadow of power cast by ancient monuments makes the next chapter in our story all the more remarkable. A new kind of harmony was about to be born, one that placed humanity itself at the center of the cosmic design. This was the Renaissance, a true rebirth that emerged from the long silence of the Middle Ages. It began not with a new invention, but with the rediscovery of a very old book. In the quiet scriptorium of a Swiss monastery, a dusty manuscript was found. Its author was a Roman architect and engineer named Vitruvius, who had lived during the time of Emperor Augustus. For over 1,000 years, his work, De Architectura, had been lost to Western Europe, its secrets preserved only in scattered fragments. Now his complete text was found, and it ignited a fire in the minds of artists, scientists, and builders. Vitruvius laid out a simple yet profound three-part formula for all great architecture. He called it Fermitas, Utilitas, Venustas, strength, utility, and beauty. A building must be solid and lasting, it must serve its purpose well, and it must possess a beauty that delights the spirit. This triad became the new gospel for Renaissance thinkers. It was a call to return to balance, but with a crucial shift in focus. The harmony of the pyramids had been between earth and sky for a pharaoh's soul. The harmony of the Gothic cathedral was between stone and light for the glory of God. The Renaissance asked a revolutionary question. What if the ultimate model for harmony was not a distant star or a sacred mountain, but something much closer to home? What if it was the human body itself? Architects became obsessed with proportion, seeing in the measurements of a man or woman the very blueprint of divine creation. No one embodied this quest more than Filippo Brunelleschi, the goldsmith turned architectural genius. Haunted by the ruins of ancient Rome, he traveled there to measure and sketch, trying to unlock the mathematical secrets of the Pantheon's dome. He wanted to understand not just how the Romans built, but why their buildings felt so perfectly, inherently right. He brought this mathematical piety back to Florence, and when he faced the seemingly impossible task of crowning the city's cathedral with a dome, he did not rely on guesswork. He designed a revolutionary double shell structure, held together by a hidden skeleton of stone and iron chains, a masterpiece of fermeters that seemed to float weightlessly over the city, a breathtaking achievement of Venustas. His work proved that ancient principles could be revived through rigorous new science. Then came Leonardo da Vinci, the ultimate Renaissance mind, a man who saw no boundary between art, anatomy, and engineering. He pored over Vitruvius' writings, fixating on a single passage where the Roman described the ideal human proportions. Vitruvius noted that a well-made man, with arms and legs outstretched, would fit perfectly into both the most perfect geometric shapes, the circle and the square. Leonardo took this idea and made it immortal. With a few precise lines of ink, he created the Vitruvian Man. Here was a living man drawn with anatomical accuracy, centered within a square, his fingertips and heels touching its sides. And around him a perfect circle, its center at his navel. This was not just a drawing of a man, it was a philosophical diagram of cosmic harmony. The square represented the earthly, the material, the stable world. The circle symbolized the heavenly, the spiritual, the eternal. And the human form was the sacred link between them, the microcosm that contained and reflected the macrocosm. Leonardo's image declared that to understand the universe, you must first understand humanity. To build a harmonious building, you must build to human scale, using proportions derived from the body. This human-centric vision reshaped everything. Palaces were designed with rooms whose dimensions followed pleasing ratios. Public squares were laid out to feel inviting and ordered to a person standing within them. The relentless vertical reach of Gothic architecture softened into balanced, symmetrical facades that felt comprehensible and calm. The Renaissance did not abandon the ancient quest for balance with the cosmos. Instead, it proposed that the cosmos was best understood through the lens of human experience, human reason, and human beauty. It was a harmony built for the living, to be enjoyed in the here and now. This powerful recentering of values, however, would soon face its own disruption. As the scientific revolution gained momentum, a new, more mechanical view of the universe began to emerge, one that would challenge the very idea of a spiritually resonant world and, in turn, reshape the foundations of architecture itself. Leonardo's serene geometry of the perfect man was a beautiful idea, but the world it described was already beginning to fracture. The Renaissance's faith in a rational, human-centered cosmos soon collided with new discoveries. The Earth was not the center of the universe. The heavens were not a perfect, unchanging sphere of fixed stars. This scientific revolution, led by minds like Galileo and Newton, revealed a universe that was vast, mechanical, and governed by impersonal laws of motion and gravity. Harmony was no longer a divine gift woven into creation. It was a physical force to be calculated. This profound shift in understanding sent architects down a new path. If the universe was a great machine, then perhaps the most harmonious buildings would be those that reflected its logic, precision, and power. The search for balance entered the age of reason, where order was imposed through intellect, symmetry, and absolute control. This is the world of Baroque and Neoclassicism, where harmony became a performance. In the grand theatres of the Baroque period, architects like Gian Lorenzo Bernini pushed the principles of balance in a thrilling new direction. They were not interested in the static, perfect geometry of a Renaissance square. Their goal was to capture movement, emotion, and sheer theatricality. Look at Bernini's colonnade framing St. Peter's Square in Rome. Its two sweeping arcs of columns do not feel like a rigid enclosure. They feel like two giant stone arms reaching out to embrace the faithful, pulling them dynamically toward the heart of the church. This is harmony in motion, an architectural gesture that balances immense scale with a sense of intimate welcome. Inside a Baroque church, the experience is utterly immersive. Architects used every tool to engage the senses and stir the soul. They painted ceilings that seemed to dissolve, opening to visions of heavenly ascent with saints and angels soaring through billowing cloud. They covered every surface in glimmering gold leaf, making light itself a tangible, divine material. Walls and altars were no longer flat plains, but undulating, sculptural forms that seemed to breathe and pulse. The harmony here was dynamic and emotional, a careful balancing of opposing forces, light against deep shadow, solid mass against illusionistic void. The goal was to create a direct, profound experience of spiritual ecstasy, to make the visitor not just an observer, but a participant in a cosmic drama. The Baroque insisted that true balance could be felt in the heart's quickening beat as much as in the mind's appreciation of proportion. Yet, as the 18th century dawned, a reaction set in. The swirling emotion and ornate complexity of the Baroque began to feel excessive to a new generation of thinkers. They looked back past the Renaissance to the clean lines and sober ideals of ancient Greece and Rome. This was the birth of Neoclassicism, a movement that sought harmony through purity, restraint, and intellectual order. For Neoclassicists, the Baroque was a decadent detour. True beauty and balance, they argued, resided in the timeless principles of the ancients, principles that reflected the newly admired laws of the Newtonian universe, logical, predictable, and elegant. Their buildings became temples to reason. Think of the United States Capitol or the Pantheon in Paris. Their facades are dominated by stately rows of columns, perfect pediments, and serene domes. Every element is symmetrical, balanced, and measured. There is no hidden movement, no emotional manipulation. The harmony is one of calm authority and enlightened ideals, a visual representation of democracy, civic virtue, and human intellect triumphing over chaos. This was architecture as a moral statement, where balance was achieved through the suppression of messy emotion in favor of clear, rational form. It created spaces meant to inspire not ecstasy, but thoughtful contemplation and noble action. Yet this very pursuit of pure, intellectual order would soon face a rebellion of its own. For in seeking to emulate the ancient world, Neoclassicism often created spaces that felt cold, impersonal, and distant from the lived experience of ordinary people. Its harmony was majestic, but could it feel alive? Could balance be found not in imitating temples, but in the organic patterns of a forest, the rustic charm of a cottage, or the untamed beauty of a windswept cliff? A new generation was about to answer that question with a resounding yes, turning away from the rulebook of Rome to seek inspiration in the wild, beating heart of nature itself. The serene authority of neoclassical reason could not hold back the tide of a new world. A profound rupture was coming, one that would reshape the very materials and motivations of building. The steam engine, the factory, and the steel frame did not just change how we made things, they changed what we believed architecture was for. The ancient dialogue with earth and sky was drowned out by the roar of machinery, and a powerful new creed, form follows function. This was the birth of modernism, and with it, a great forgetting. The philosophy was radical in its purity. Ornament was a crime. A building should be a machine for living in. Its beauty derived solely from the honest expression of its structure and purpose. This led to breathtaking achievements of engineering and social intent. For the first time, clean, well-lit spaces, efficient floor plans, and mass-produced materials promised to democratize good design, bringing light, air, and simplicity to the masses. The curtain wall of glass and steel made interiors bright and open, a rejection of the dark, ornamented interiors of the past. In its idealism, modernism sought a new kind of universal harmony, one based on logic, hygiene, and social progress. Yet, in its fervor to break from history, it often discarded the deeper languages of the past. The sacred geometry of the Parthenon was seen as sentimental decoration. The celestial alignment of a temple was irrelevant to a building lit by electric light. The geomancy of Machu Picchu, that deep conversation with a specific place, was antithetical to a universal style meant to work anywhere. The glass skyscraper, that iconic symbol of the 20th century, reveals the core of this disconnect. It is a marvel of efficiency and corporate ambition, a tower of light that seems to defy gravity. But it could be planted in Manhattan, Shanghai, or Dubai with little change. Its glass skin often ignores the local climate, requiring immense energy to heat and cool, fighting the environment rather than collaborating with it. Its orientation is dictated by the geometry of the street grid and the value of the view, not the path of the sun or the patterns of the wind. It speaks a global language of commerce and technology, but it is often silent in the local dialect of place, culture, and cosmos. This created a world of placelessness. You could wake up in a sleek, minimalist hotel room in a dozen different cities and struggle to remember which continent you were on. The unique texture of local materials, the response to regional climate, the embedding of cultural narrative in stone, all seem to fade in favor of a smooth, universal aesthetic. The ancient builders asked how their structure could complete a specific landscape. Modernism, in its most rigid form, often asked how the landscape could be cleared to make way for the structure. This is not a condemnation of an entire century of design, which gave us masterpieces of clarity and social hope. It is an observation of a trade-off. In our pursuit of functional efficiency and a break from historical constraint, we allowed an entire holistic language to fall quiet, the language that connected a building to the deeper patterns of the world around it. We gained unprecedented freedom and scale, but we risked building a world that felt spiritually anonymous, where the soul of a place was paved over with glass and concrete. This great disconnect leaves us with an unresolved question hanging in the air of our modern cities. If the old language of cosmic balance is gone, what fills the silence? And is it possible in our complex contemporary world to listen for its echoes once more, to recover a sense of harmony that speaks to both our technological present and our ancient human need for meaning? This very question is what now stirs a quiet but growing revolution at the drawing boards of today's most visionary architects. The great forgetting of the modernist era was never complete. A quiet but persistent memory remained, a deep human longing for connection that glass and steel alone could not satisfy. That memory is now stirring to life in drawing studios and city halls around the world, not as a revival of ancient styles, but as a rediscovery of ancient principles. The old language of the builders of balance is being spoken again, translated into a new, scientifically informed dialect for the 21st century. This is not about copying pyramids, it is about recovering the wisdom that built them. One of the most powerful translations is called biophilic design. The term itself means a love of life, and its goal is explicit: to weave the natural world back into our buildings and cities. After decades of sealed, artificial environments, architects and psychologists now have overwhelming data. Humans are not machines. Our well-being, our focus, even our healing rates improve dramatically when we are in contact with nature. So biophilic design asks, how can a hospital, an office, or a school become a partner in human health? The answers are a direct echo of the ancient practice of geomancy, that deep listening to a place. It means designing with abundant natural light that changes through the day, just like the beam in the Pantheon. It means using materials with rich textures, warm wood, natural stone, living walls of plants that engage our senses and tell us where we are. It means creating spaces with views to greenery and access to fresh air, acknowledging that our biology is still tuned to the forest and the savanna, not the cubicle. A building becomes not just a container but an ecosystem for human flourishing. This is geomancy updated with climate science and cognitive research, seeking the same harmony between structure and life force. Alongside this return to nature, there is a renewed fascination with the silent mathematics of form. Sacred geometry is no longer just an esoteric study, it is a practical tool in contemporary design. Architects are once again employing the golden ratio and the Fibonacci sequence, that elegant pattern where each number is the sum of the two before it, a sequence seen in pine cones and spiral galaxies. You can find these principles in the graceful, organic curves of a museum facade, in the spiraling layout of a ramp that feels intuitively right to ascend, or in the proportions of a room that somehow feels both expansive and intimate. The goal is the same as it was for the Greeks at the Parthenon: to create spaces that feel inherently peaceful and balanced because they resonate with patterns hardwired into our perception of the world. This is not mystical decoration, it is a recognition that certain geometries simply sing to the human nervous system. Even the ancient concern for social cohesion is finding powerful new expression in urban planning. The sprawling, car-centric cities of the last century often fractured community. Now there is a global movement toward healing that fracture. Planners are emphasizing walkable neighborhoods where homes, shops, and parks are woven together, encouraging the casual encounters that build social fabric. They are prioritizing green spaces not as isolated parks, but as connected networks, veins of nature running through the urban body. The design of a new public square today will often consider not just its aesthetics, but how it invites people to linger, talk, and participate, much like the Stepwells of India or the plazas of Teotihuacan once did. The core idea is that a city's harmony depends on the vitality of its human connections, and architecture can either hinder or nurture those bonds. What we are witnessing is a profound convergence. The empirical findings of modern science are validating the intuitive genius of the ancients. We now have data for what they knew in their bones, that we are part of a living system, that certain shapes calm us, and that community is the bedrock of a thriving society. The old language is not being copied, it is being relearned and reinvented with new materials and new knowledge. This suggests that the quest for architectural balance is not a historical artifact, but a permanent human impulse. It was buried for a time under industrial ambition, but it is re-emerging as an essential compass for building a world that doesn't just house us, but truly sustains us. The principles were always there, waiting in the stones. We are just beginning to remember how to listen. The quiet hum of a satellite now listens for the whispers of a lost city. Our modern quest to understand the builders of balance is no longer confined to trowels and tape measures. It is being propelled by a silent revolution in the sky and beneath our feet. This is the era of archaeoastronomy, where advanced technology is granting us a kind of time travel, allowing us to see the ancient world not as a collection of ruins, but as a living, intentional design. We are finally learning to read their language of harmony at the scale they intended. At the heart of this shift is software that can wind back the cosmic clock. By inputting precise geographic coordinates and dates, researchers can reconstruct the exact night sky as it appeared over a temple 3,000 years ago. This digital archaeology has moved far beyond speculation. It has confirmed with breathtaking precision that a narrow window in a Maya observatory at Chichen Itza was indeed engineered to frame the path of Venus, a planet of immense warlike and regenerative significance to their culture. We can now watch on a computer screen the solstice sun slide into alignment with a passageway in a Neolithic tomb in Ireland, an event that would have been witnessed only once a year by a solemn few. This technology transforms a curious architectural feature into a confirmed celestial instrument, revealing the builders not as primitive stargazers, but as meticulous astronomers who etched their cosmology into the orientation of every stone. Yet, perhaps the most dramatic tool is one that sees through solid earth and dense foliage, LiDAR, or light detection and ranging. Mounted on aircraft, it fires millions of laser pulses at the ground, digitally stripping away the jungle canopy to map the terrain beneath. In the jungles of Cambodia around Angkor, LiDAR has revealed a sprawling, low-density metropolis interconnected by canals and roads, a hydraulic city engineered in profound harmony with the seasonal floods of the Tonle Sap Lake. In Central America, it has unveiled vast ceremonial complexes in Guatemala, showing that what we thought were isolated Maya city-states were parts of a far more extensive and deliberately planned network. These scans show us that harmony was not just for individual temples, it was a principle applied to entire landscapes with reservoirs, causeways, and agricultural fields all positioned within a grand, integrated system. On a more intimate scale, ground-penetrating radar sends pulses into the earth, painting a picture of what lies hidden without moving a single stone. It has mapped buried water channels feeding the Stepwells of India, confirming the sophistication of their hydrological engineering. It has hinted at undiscovered chambers within the Great Pyramid and traced the foundations of lost walls beneath Roman forums. This technology allows archaeologists to become decoders of intent, to understand the complete blueprint before a single shovel breaks the soil. Together, these tools are doing something profound. They are closing the gap between the modern observer and the ancient planner. We are no longer just interpreting what remains, we are beginning to perceive the original vision in its full, harmonious scope. We can see the ceremonial pathway designed to mirror the Milky Way, the city laid out to manage water as a sacred resource, the tomb aligned to catch a single beam of light on the day of a king's passing. The stones have held their secrets for millennia, but now, through the lens of silicon and laser light, they are finally beginning to speak in complete sentences. This technological renaissance offers a humbling lesson. It suggests that the true complexity of the ancient world's harmony has been, until this very moment, almost invisible to us. These shared principles form a kind of universal syntax, a deep grammar for constructing meaning in stone. Across every continent and culture, the builders of balance were writing different dialects, but they were all obeying the same fundamental rules of a sacred language. The first rule is axis, the establishment of a primary directional line. This was the foundational stroke in their architectural sentence. Whether it was the north-south spine of the Forbidden City, the solstice-aligned avenue at Teotihuacan, or the east-facing altar of a Gothic cathedral, this axis created a backbone of order. It oriented the entire structure within a knowable cosmos, providing a fixed reference point against the chaos of the world. It told every visitor, "You are here, and here is a place that matters in the grand scheme of things." The second rule is proportion, the mathematics of beauty and stability. This was the rhythm and meter of the space, the golden ratio in a Greek temple, the repetitive squares of a mandala, the precise integer ratios governing the height of a pyramid. These were not arbitrary. They were chosen because they felt inherently right, creating spaces that resonated with the human body and spirit. Good proportion made a structure feel inevitable, as if it could not possibly be any other way. It was the silent music that made a space feel calm, focused, and alive. The third rule is symbol, the layer of narrative meaning. This was the vocabulary specific to each culture, the stories carved into the walls. The serpent columns representing Quetzalcoatl, the lotus capitals symbolizing rebirth in Egypt, the gargoyles serving as spiritual guardians on a cathedral. These symbols transformed abstract stone into a readable text. They embedded the community's myths, history, and values directly into the environment, ensuring that every glance was a reminder of who they were and what they believed. The final, grounding rule is integration, the respectful dialogue with the site. This was the grammar of context. It demanded that a building listen to its place, to the mountain like Machu Picchu, to the water table like a stepwell, to the sun and wind like a doggone village. A structure born from this rule does not feel imposed. It feels revealed, as if it grew naturally from the logic of the land itself. When these four rules worked in concert, something extraordinary happened. They constructed what scholars call a sacred space. This is not merely a space used for religious ritual. It is a zone where the ordinary, profane rules of daily life are deliberately suspended. Time feels different, more cyclical or eternal. Sound behaves in unusual ways, as in the echoing ball court or the hushed nave. The very air can seem charged. In a sacred space, the connection to a larger, ordered reality, whether called the cosmos, the divine, or the ancestral realm, is not just believed, it is made tangible, walkable, breathable. You do not just learn about harmony, you stand inside its physical manifestation. This is the profound commonality from Giza to Kyoto. The Egyptian tomb, the Mayan observatory, the Gothic cathedral, all were engineered to be portals. They used the universal grammar of axis, proportion, symbol, and integration to build bridges out of the mundane and into the meaningful. This shared architectural impulse points to something fundamental in the human psyche. It suggests that our yearning for cosmological belonging, for a sense of place within an ordered universe, is not a cultural invention, but a deep, perhaps innate human need. We do not just want to hear that the world is balanced. We have always sought to build places where we can feel that balance with our entire being. And if this grammar is indeed a part of us, written into our very nature, then perhaps the story does not end with the last ancient stone being laid. Perhaps this language is not dead but dormant, waiting to be spoken again in forms we have yet to fully imagine. Their silent grammar of stone offers a quiet antidote for our modern anxieties. We live in an age of immense technical power, yet we often feel unmoored, facing a warming planet, fragmented communities, and a deep cultural loneliness. The legacy of those ancient builders is not a blueprint for replicating their temples, but a compass for reorienting our own priorities. They teach us that the most urgent function of architecture in our time may be to heal. Imagine a city not as a machine of steel and traffic, but as a forest of stone and light, where buildings are designed to clean the air, collect rainwater, and generate their own energy, not as an add-on, but as their fundamental purpose. This is the principle of reciprocity they mastered at Machu Picchu, applied with 21st century knowledge. A building becomes an active participant in the ecosystem, giving back as much as it takes, a true partner with nature rather than its conqueror. This shift from extraction to regeneration is perhaps the most critical lesson they offer for our planetary future. Their work also whispers a vital truth about community. The cathedrals and stepwells were not just beautiful objects, they were engines of social cohesion, places that gathered people in shared purpose and experience. In our digital age, where connection is often virtual and fleeting, we need physical spaces that pull us back into the tangible world of human contact. The ancient builders show us that harmony within a society can be architecturally encouraged through welcoming public squares that invite conversation, through libraries and community centers that feel like the heart of a neighborhood, through designs that prioritize the pedestrian over the car, fostering the chance encounters that build trust and belonging. They understood that a city's health is measured not just by its gross domestic product, but by the strength of the bonds between the people who walk its streets. And then there is the nourishment of the spirit, an idea that modern design has often sidelined as impractical. The builders of balance treated beauty not as superficial decoration, but as a form of sustenance. The precise geometry that calms the mind, the play of natural light that lifts the heart, the use of materials that feel warm and honest to the touch, these are not luxuries. They are fundamental to human well-being. When we build sterile, anonymous boxes that ignore these needs, we create environments that subtly drain us. The ancients knew that a space could elevate, inspire, and offer solace. In a world of constant noise and distraction, creating pockets of contemplative beauty, whether in a home, a hospital, or an office, is an act of profound care. It is an acknowledgement that we are not just economic units, but beings who crave meaning and resonance in our surroundings. Their greatest lesson, however, is one of humility and intention. They built with a deep reverence for forces larger than themselves, the cosmos, the earth, the community. They asked not what the land could give them, but what they could give back to the land through their design. Our current crises stem from a philosophy of separation, seeing ourselves as apart from nature and from each other. The builders offer a philosophy of connection. They show us that a thriving civilization is not one that dominates its environment, but one that consciously weaves itself into the living tapestry of place, culture, and cosmos. The future they point toward is not a retreat to the past, but an evolution toward a wiser maturity. It is a future where our brilliant technology is guided by this ancient wisdom, where our cities are habitats for flourishing, where every structure, from the humblest home to the grandest public hall, serves not just a function, but a deeper human need for belonging, beauty, and balance. Their stones ask us a final, gentle question. What kind of world will we choose to build from here, and what silent lessons will our own foundations whisper to those who come after us? Their stones have spoken across the ages, and their lesson is clear. Our journey across millennia and continents reveals that the monuments of the ancient world are not silent. They are eloquent teachers, speaking of a time when humanity saw itself as a conscious participant in a vast, balanced cosmos. The pyramids, temples, and cities we have explored are more than ruins. They are the physical philosophy of the builders of balance. They challenge us to look beyond the mere utility of our surroundings and ask deeper questions about alignment, proportion, and purpose. These structures were acts of faith in an ordered universe, a declaration that human life mattered within a grand, meaningful pattern. They did not just house kings or gods, they housed a profound idea that our greatest works should resonate with the world around us, from the bedrock to the stars. In every aligned doorway, every proportioned column, and every integrated terrace, we find a shared human yearning to build a home not just on the earth, but within the universe. As we close this exploration, remember that the quest for harmony is not a relic of the past, but an ongoing human project. The principles are timeless, waiting to be translated into the language of our own age. It might be in the design of a sunlit room that lifts your spirit, in the support of a community garden that nourishes both land and neighbor, or in the simple choice to walk through your own city with a more attentive eye, noticing how the light falls or where people naturally gather. What might you build in your own life or community that seeks a little more balance between the human spirit and the world that cradles it? Share your thoughts below. And if this vision of interconnected history resonated with you, subscribe for more journeys into the profound patterns